I want to do a quick thing called Ask a Therapist. So I'll give you like three situations that I'm reading online, and you can give me your input as a therapist as to what you think the person should do. That's fair, right?
Sure, sure.
Alright, hold on. Ah, here it is. So we'll do this one. Okay, so ready. I am a 25-year-old woman and I do nursing. I enjoy my work. I have been taking care of an old man. He's a bit miserable, but they pay me well. Since I have been in the US, I met and fell in love with the man I am taking care of. From the time I started to work with him, he told me how much he loves me and will do anything for me. But I was warned to be very careful and not to become friendly with any of these men I am working with. I am his caregiver. This man is healthy and strong. He always wants me to hug him. I know how far I go with him. Since I have been in the US, I met my husband, so I am now married. I told my husband how fresh this man I care for can be, and he told me that I should leave the job. But I cannot afford to leave the job, because all this man does is chat about how nice I look, but he has never tried to assault me. My husband has been living off me. I have not got anything out of this marriage. My marriage is not going anywhere, and I believe I will have to divorce my husband. While I'm away at work, this man is fooling around other women and even taking them to our house, and I am the one paying the rent. What should I do?
Hmm. That sounds like a very difficult thing to answer in one step, but I'll tell you if the person was in front of me, that's what you want me to do, right? Like, okay, so if this person was in front of me, I would say to her, first of all, let us look very carefully, right? And you talk to me about the pros and the cons of each of these situations, right? So let's talk about your marriage. Let's talk about the strengths and the takeaways and all these different things, and let's really dig into what the marriage is bringing to the table and all of that. Let's look at the fact that, how long you've been together. Let's look at the different phases that these relationships can go through. And then let's look at what it is that this relationship with this the man that you're caregiving, is also giving to you, because it's giving something that makes you feel like, okay, maybe I should. And what are all of those things? So a number of things come up there for her, in terms of her needs. And then this man comes and he is complimenting her all the time. And the marriage is having some little, shaky moments and so on. And they're not even in the same country together. And she's working somewhere else. So there are things that maybe in this situation right now, you don't want to make a quick decision. You don't want to make like a flip, look at it and say, boy, this man over here is complimenting me all the time and I'm getting well paid over here. Oh yeah, this is the thing, right? Grass always looking greener on the other side. So we really would have to dig into, I think, the two scenarios and what's really happening, what is coming from her, just like a need in this particular phase, of her life, and what's happening and what is real, what is genuine, what is, so that's kind of where I'd go with that.
And I think a lot of times men, especially older men, this a older guy was telling me this because him say, like at a certain age, like men that like go after young women like that is that it leads to ruin. Like it will like ruin your name because him said them woman that can't go on take care of you in your big old age. You know what I mean? They may like the attention and they may like the money, but a lot of the times the man them it's a mutual exploitative relationship. In that the man is using her for the validation, to feel wanted, to feel needed, and she's using the man for the financial taking care of and also for that
And
validation.
validation, that's her validation too, and all these compliments and getting paid well and all of that. So it's transactional, but so
It's a
is every
transactional
relationship.
relationship.
That's the truth. That's why she has to kind of look at, okay, let me look at me and hubby, right? And see,
Yeah.
what is the nature of those transactions and how do they play out, and to both our benefit, our mutual benefit. And let's look at this one and let's just look at it from a reality perspective, right? Because if you're gonna make that decision that, all right, yes, I know I can say that he might give me some compliment and he might give me enough money, and I'm giving him some validation at his old stage in my life, in his life, and all of that, and I can work with that, then but we have to just really dig into the real story, the facts.
Yeah, yeah. How often are relationships like is money an issue in relationships that you've seen as a
That's a
therapist?
big one. It's a big one. It's a very big one. So what she speaks of there is not unusual. And there are many scenarios that can come. The scenario that she spoke of there, okay, husband not give her no money and she not getting anything. And what she gets out of this marriage, okay, that's one story. Another story is I'm getting all the money and more, but I don't have the emotional attention, validation, presence of the person. I am getting this money, but then let me see, but then other needs are not being satisfied. So there's different permutations and combinations in which finances come into a relationship, but they're undoubtedly an important piece. As a matter of fact, I remember reading a piece of literature once, and I think it stands now, that financial issues are the things that couples, I think it said that couples argue most about.
100%. And so the thing, so I think a lot of guys will think that, like a lot of men will kind of have this because of social media, has this perception that girl only want money, man. Girl only want man where or thing up in life. But sometimes you hear from women that money is not really a thing. What they care about is more about how much they like the guy and attracted to the guy. But how what is like what's I say? Where's the intermediary where some is true? Where's the intermediary of truth in that? In those like stereotypes that you would say
Right.
as
I think that both. I think both males and females, money is important. Right. And I think that if a female says that, money is not important, or I think they don't understand. I think what they're trying to say is not important is that the man doesn't have to give me money for everything. That's different. But the money, the fact that the money is coming or not coming, or coming in between, or coming a little bit or coming too much, is an issue in the relationship. And it can take place because money is actually a secondary reinforcer, as we call it. There's something underneath there that the money provides, that a need for people. So whether that is that, okay, you're in this relationship now, like this lady says, for how many years? And then, maybe you had dreams and you thought that, oh boy, I would have loved to go to go to Dubai or wherever, right? And then now you realize that 5 years into your marriage, 7 years into your marriage, your relationship, it not happen. Or it might be that you had this dream that you would have this big house, or a more comfortable house, or that you would be buying a house, not renting one, or that you would be, so many different things that it also can become an issue that the man himself feels like he is not doing what he is expected to do, from his perspective. And so he becomes disgruntled about it or depressed about it, which impacts the relationship. So in many ways and forms, it impacts the relationship. So I think that for anybody that says that, I think it's like, okay, hold on, pause. Not saying that, you want the money so you can go, get your hair done every week and get your nails done every week and all of that. But money is going to be a factor in your relationship. However you want to slice it, it's going to be a factor.
I remember one time I was dating this girl that was earning exponentially more than me. She was really well off in her career. And she really liked me, and I said it as I listen. Like, I know you like me, but I said, look, I don't feel like I have my shit together. And so I was like, I'm not earning. It's not like, okay, I have no problem dating someone that earns more than me, but it was the levels, because I earn Jamaican money and she earn US money. You know what I mean? And I was just like, I know you want us to date, but I'm like, I need to get my shit together. And she was like, no, it's fine. And then like there were the situations where she was like, she wanted to go to a certain restaurant that I just could not afford. Like the average entree was 300 US. And I say, yo, I can't go here, some man. And she said, she'll get upset. And it was a certain point that the resentment started to build. And then they would just say, we might as well just end it.
Because it don't make any sense, right?
It don't make no sense.
Even in that scenario, as much as, okay, so maybe she would have been happy to pay for that meal, sure, you know, in that particular restaurant. But your ideals as well and your thoughts play a role in how it all going to go together. So it is it's something that, and it's not something that they can get around, you know, or you can't get around, but it takes like open communication and being clear that yes, it is an issue, right? And so how we're going to get around this, and whether that agreement would have been, you know what, we can't go at this restaurant level B or wherever, you know, instead. And then when we get myself together, we make sure we're going to forward that, you know, that one there that we never get to go to this time, because that's where I am at or how I feel comfortable. So it takes a lot of communication, but to ignore it and feel like, oh no, man, that not gonna cause no issue. It's good. I got this, that kind of thing. It really does not. You can't do that. That will sneak up on you and
Absolutely. All right, let me give you one more. So I am a 30-year-old Christian and I am having problems that I don't know how to deal with. I got married 2 years ago to a young woman who is from our denomination, but we didn't fellowship in the same congregation. She's 34 and has one daughter. When we became friends, we used to fool around a lot in bed. She always wanted me to have sex with her, and when we got engaged, she became possessive. We did not live together until we were married. I was living at my father's house. My mother did not marry my father. I preferred to live with my father. He supported me and he bought me a car for my 21st birthday. When I was attending university, I did not have to take a student loan. My father did that for me. When it came to my education, he was very rough. I love my parents, but I love my father more. My father accused my mother of cheating on him with his best friend. I knew it was true because I had evidence. When my father asked me certain questions about the man and my mother, I was scared to tell him the truth. I believed he would beat up my mother. So I told him that I didn't know anything. But to this day, my mother believes that I told my father that this man used to come to the house when he was not there. I never saw my mother in bed with this man, but I knew she was having sex with him one night because I could hear them. Ugh. She was telling him how sweet he was, and it seemed as if both of them would have to do something to see each other more often. I pretended that I had to clear my throat to let my mother know that I was home. As soon as I did that, the ramping in the bedroom stopped. I was 15 at the time. When I first told my father that I wanted to live with him at his house, he told me to pack everything and he would pick me up. I told my mother I was going to live with my father, and she said that was okay with her. She would rent my room or take in a boarder. My father was living with a woman. He told me that I should call the woman auntie, but the woman told me to call her by her first name. When I met my wife, she told me that she knew my mother as they were from the same district. But her mother told her that my mother was always a hot girl. Well, my wife is just like my mother. I know for sure that she's keeping another man with me, although she's in the church and teaching Sunday school. I cannot take her cheating anymore. I told her that she should leave, but she said that she has no reason to leave. How can a woman be married and put another man who is not a relative in her account? Well, that is what my wife did, and she named him as her friend. Would you not consider this very strange? I am an honest man. I don't spend my wife's money. My child's father is her child's father is supporting her. I don't need my wife's money. I've had to separate myself from the matrimonial bed. My father is encouraging me to divorce my wife. What do you say?
Wow, that's very interesting, right? Very interesting story. So definitely, I think that, you know, he really has to kind of think through, and he's beginning to touch on some of the things that he has to think through, because he's looking at the messaging that he has got from he was younger, what happened in his parents' relationship, and how he has found himself in a very similar situation. So, you know, for those that want to dig, that's a place to be digging at. You know, how am I in this same scenario again? Or again in another, you know, with the me being my father kind of thing. And but right now, to the point of his relationship, he clearly, I think, you know, first and foremost, when we look at infidelity, he has to look at and think about what is going on here, you know, in our relationship. You know, the first and the foremost, a lot of times, and understandably so, when infidelity comes into the picture, the first thing we're thinking about is the other people, right? You know, meaning the other person, the outside person, and your partner, right? And so you're thinking about also then, okay, but what about our relationship as well, right? That does come into a lot of people's thoughts because they're, like, am I not good enough? Am I not? And these kind of questions can come up, but in a very real and open way, without blaming self, because it's not about blaming yourself, but about kind of thinking about, okay, what has possibly gone wrong here? What needs are we not fulfilling in each other? What is happening here? And really look at the situation. Is it that? Is it a case where, because it's also possible that you are in a situation where you're in this relationship and everything is actually going well, but the person is still cheating, right? Is it that? Right? So am I dealing with a situation then where this individual has some issues around sex, has some difficulty with monogamy, right? Or, is not naturally monogamous, or not naturally is the wrong word, but not easily monogamous, right? What is really going on here, And at that point, when you understand that, you understand more clearly how you can, or what decision you have to make. Do I have to get a divorce? Or is this something that I want to work on, that she wants to work on? If we identify that there is something, so all of those questions come after, but understanding what are we dealing here with this landscape, before we then kind of delve into, what do we do next?
Do you if there's cheating involved, do you recommend like repairing the relationship, or do you kind of recommend walking away?
I recommend really looking at the relationship. I would say that in a number of cases it can be repaired, if the person, especially if the person that has been hurt, right, or cheated on, is willing to look at all the places and all the vulnerabilities and the issues that exist, right? Because it's a dynamic, and we find sometimes that there are a lot of patterns that play out. Infidelity is something that is it's a very complex thing to look at. And it is not always, a lot of times we have certain ways that we take on when somebody has been unfaithful. And that includes, like, what you call it now, like black and white thinking, like they're a bad person, right? So I'll give you one example, which I've seen in a number of occasions in my office, of a relationship that is doing well, right? Long-standing relationship, right? So upwards of 10 years, right? In some cases, 20. Things are good. The person they treat each other well, right? Etc. There is a stable family, let's put it that way, right? Stable relationship. And then there's an incidence of infidelity. And a lot of the work, and we have a tendency that, once that happens, it's like, oh my God, this person is the worst. How can you do that? Who does that? That kind of thing, etc. But then sometimes you have to take a stock. And I hear and I feel these individuals taking a stock of the relationship, because they're like, wow, but she's such a great support for me. She's such a good mom. She is really a great, there are a lot of benefits that the person brings to the relationship also. And yes, there's also the infidelity, which has been awful. So they want to make the relationship work, because when they recognize and they really max it out, this person is bringing a lot more than this infidelity that happened. You understand? So that's what I mean, like, by looking at the scenario. So in a number of those cases, I've seen them go on and the relationship works just great. Now, if you have a scenario where everything, every week, every 6 months, and going over and over and over, and we're just not getting to the then problems, that's much harder to repair. But I've definitely seen when there's been an infidelity and the person is not, and you can recognize this is a good person, but this person made an egregious, exactly,
judgment,
a lapse and all of that. Different story. And I've seen those repair much more easily and, than otherwise.
All right. So the question I have is also this: when is it that a person should trust their intuition that something is up? When is it that is your intuition, insecurity where you're projecting, and a risk of being gaslighting? When would you recommend? How would you recommend that? Because I've
Wow,
had
that's
situations
a
where I'm
tough
like,
one. That's a tough one, Garnet. It's
because
tough.
I've had situations where I'm like, I know there's something up. And even when I talk to women, I think a lot of times women, I don't believe in women intuition. So because a woman will be like, yeah man, I can tell him I cheat, but I feel like what happens is, especially when you're attracted to someone, the warning signs that the red flags, you have on rose-colored glasses. So all red flags are pink. All red flags just, you have on rose-colored glasses. So it's not red flags, it's just flags. So I think a lot of times our intuition, when it's attraction or when we like them, it's not there. But what happens when you're like, I feel it. I feel like something is up, something is off. Do you fix that in communication? Like, how do you deal with that? Like, when is it right and when is it just insecurity projection, that type of thing?
Well, that comes with everything you said there. Knowing that distinction comes with knowing yourself, right? Because then you have to be very aware of your own insecurities, right? And then be able to make that distinction between, okay, you know what, this is me, just bring up the things that happened, a few years ago, or a relationship or two relationships ago, or whatever it might be, or my upbringing or my family, but I really feel like you watch a series of things. I don't think in any of those people that I've seen that say, I know that something is happening, something is off, they have several different things that they have pulled together, in terms of observations. It's not one thing, it's not two things. And I think that is what you need to back your intuition. Right? To back your intuition, you need to have some things that look solid enough for you to be like, yeah, something is not right here. There is phone keep. What are some of the common ones? The phone, right? The phone is a little bit being a change in behaviors, right? Yeah. So the phone is becoming too protective of the phone now. Turning it down, gone with it everywhere, even in the bath, and and these kind of things. Certain pockets of missing in terms of physically. Missing physically when usually the person is like this. And usually it's the change in behavior. So whatever the change in behavior kind of brings, you have several little things that are like, no, I don't like how this is looking, that back your initial intuition. Because the intuition might come up with one thing, with one little incident, one little thing happened, either something was said or the way that they responded or one of these little things, and it comes up, but it's observing that and watching that, watching to see the other things that may or may not play out, And usually, people ask questions. So like even some of the scenarios I'm thinking of, I recall several of them have said that they would ask them, but I thought you said you were going to Negril, but I noticed that, but instead you went to Ochi or something like that, right? And then the person kind of gives a reason, gives some kind of reason that still don't sit well, right? Something don't seem right. And so I would say, you continue to ask those little questions, because those little questions can then give you, but be mindful of how you ask them, So you're going to the situation and you're going to be screaming and hollering like, no, no, just be very cool. Try your best, cool, calm, collected, and you ask your questions, you say, but I notice on this bill here that you have this amount here going to Jade Garden, right? What's that about? And then you hear what the person have to say. And then something else show up and you hear it, and trust me, it will not all add up, right? So it's really patience and kind of biding your time and being able to manage your emotions, right? To regulate them to get to the answer, to get to the real answer. If the person is not going to be forthcoming, because that definitely can be a thing.
How do you deal with like a gaslighter? So I hate the term gaslighting because I feel like gaslighting, toxic, and narcissist. If you talk to every girl will tell you that she dated a narcissist. I feel like that's an overused term for someone that was probably just not as interested in you. But gaslighting, I think I have had that issue where, you know, someone says something to you and you're like, yo, and it's kind of like they make it about you, or they say, no, I did not say that. You know what I mean? Like, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you deal with a gaslighter? So it's one thing to catch it, but how do you communicate? This is
my last question.
yeah, I know, cause yeah, well, same, cause we're at the end.
Yeah.
That was yeah, we're at the end, yeah.
Yeah, so gaslighting definitely, yeah, that has become like, you know, I hear everybody with it, but the truth is that it is about, yeah, that you making you feel like you are the wrong, the person that's wrong, or that you like, how could you come up with that? You know, that don't make no sense. It's you kind of thing. Definitely happens. And what was the frame of the question again? You wanted to know like
How would you deal with a gaslighter? Like if you're dealing with in a relationship with someone that's like that.
Right. Yes. So I think that in that situation, when somebody's trying to gaslight you, that it's time to stop that the train of that conversation, because then that conversation is supposed to now switch around the energy to focus on you, right? Yeah. You know, because you're the one that's crazy and you know, building these things in your head. It's time to stop that conversation and be like, all right, okay, no problem. Right. Let me go and, you know, think about this again. Right. And figure out, because how is it that you're going to approach this situation? And how is it that you're going to approach the situation in a way that this person doesn't feel like they have to kind of turn it around on you, you know? So that's not an easy thing to figure out, but it depends on who you're dealing with, right? And if you're truly, really, really dealing with a real, true narcissist, right? That's not something that you're gonna get away from. Usually, I don't. Usually, the gurus of narcissism, like that, meaning the psychologists who deal with narcissism a lot, and I don't know any here to speak of, but I do follow a lady that deals with narcissism a lot, and her recommendation is get out. If this is really truly a narcissist, you can't do anything to stop that to stop that. They would have to work on themselves in whatever, you know, there's nothing you can do.